And I want all the parents right now to go look around your family and your friends, the older population in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. And are they broken down somewhere? Are they overweight? Are they? Yes, I guess a lot of them are. And they're taking down 10 or 15 family members to haul them around. Well, guess where this starts? This prevention of all that starts right away. Your kid is building the foundation. It built the foundation in the womb. You pass these windows of opportunity of growth, brain development. They're gone after a certain window. When you have all the nutrition, which is all the brick and mortar, you now have the big structure, the right structure. Now, the kid may end up being up because she's got a bad environment. You know, the parents or lives in a bad place or a bad situation, but at least they had the potential to be brilliant. They had the potential to do pretty much anything they wanted because the brick and mortar was there, which is the nutrition.
Welcome back to another episode of Sup Beast. As always, Zane Spruce, Neal Spruce, and today we'll be going over youth nutrition, starting from when you're born, basically. All right, maybe when you're in the womb. When you're in the womb till about when you're done growing, which is
generally most when you get through puberty, which by the time, and then you have you might grow a little bit more after that.
Up until the point where I guess you're done growing is youth nutrition. That's what that would be.
You would call it that. Youth, adolescent years, they're all kind of things. I just go 18 and under.
All right, so we'll start
under
with
18.
Okay, yeah, under 18. We'll start with going over the diet and then I guess how you can supplement through that diet as well. So supplementation as a youth. And then also we'll talk about, just a bunch of questions that I see all the time on the internet and that worries that go through people's head. Adults, right? So, I mean, if you're an adult, this is probably or not an adult, a parent, this is a pretty important episode for you because, this is a window of opportunity you have to give your child the best hope for growing up as healthy as possible, right?
Correct. And by the way, most parents are completely negligent on making sure their kids get what they need to grow up. Understandably, you can't get them to eat the kind of stuff they should be eating. Yeah. I get that, but you can compensate for that as they grow. And
the ignorance can hurt the
really
child.
Is. They think, they're going to be okay, and I hate it when these doctors will tell you, "Oh, don't worry, they'll eat when they're hungry." That's like the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Okay, so you gotta at least make some sense out of the whole thing. So we'll get started whenever you're ready.
I guess we'll start. We'll talk about the womb, right? The womb is
that's again different. So when we start from the very beginning, there's a reason why the American Medical Association, the American Dietetics Association, the American Pediatric Association made it mandatory back in the 70s that you are to prescribe a multivitamin mineral to the conceiving mother. Before she gets pregnant, hopefully. Yeah. Unfortunately, it happens late. Hopefully, they're taking a multivitamin before their their whole lives, and they won't have to worry about that. But so when they're ready to conceive, a complete multivitamin mineral will be able to fill all the gaps, and that single act wiped out over 30% of major birth defects and about 50% of stillborn births. So we know it makes a difference. Mom's just not accidentally eating all the stuff to feed the growing fetus. And now we include omega-3s, and sometimes a little extra calcium on top of that, depending on the mother, and some extra iron. So those are the things that you're doing while the kid's growing in the womb. Yeah. And that's really important. Yeah. Right? So you're adding that to whatever the mom's eating. So on top, because again, they talk about you're eating for two. Well, to a certain extent it is, but the baby takes priority over your structure.
Right.
So it's robbing the calcium from your bones if you're not getting enough of it in your diet. It's taking it from there, vitamin D, all these different things that are happening there. So that's the most important time right there. You make sure the mom is taking her complete multi. So you're feeding the baby right now in the womb, the multi, your omega, those things. Anyway, when they come out now, you've given them the very best chance. You filled in whatever gaps. You weren't eating a perfect diet because most moms don't.
Well, can I rewind and ask? I know you're talking about taking the prenatal, but I mean, if you're feeding the child via your food you're intaking, that needs to be
Yeah.
Like on point.
Well, we already
too?
talked about the adult diet.
Oh, so I
There's
mean,
no
yeah,
difference.
we didn't talk about what it was like.
It's
if it needs to be
identical.
all,
You've got fruits and vegetables. You got a gram per pound of protein of lean body mass. You know, and you got about you hit some omega-3 fatty acids in your diet. Nothing changes.
I don't know.
The
if
only
that
difference
changed
is
when
calories.
you're pregnant. You know.
Nope, absolutely not. The
don't know
only
what
thing
that
that
feels
changes is the amount of calories because you're feeding not quite 2, but 1 1/8 or so. Anyway.
1 1/8. Okay.
Yeah, so and that's all gets done.
So
The placenta it gets all that stuff absorbed and then gets it into the baby. The baby begins to grow. And that's what we're talking about here. So the same American diet, go back and watch one of our episodes. We laid it out for you.
Macronutrients episode, yep.
Macronutrients, yeah, you get all that. No different there. Your calories are going to go up. That's all. Okay, and it's a good to gain weight. Don't try to not gain weight when you're pregnant. You definitely want to gain weight. That's very important to do. Okay, now baby comes out.
Popped out.
Okay, and you're still taking your prenatal multivitamin and so forth, and you're breastfeeding. So now it's going through your body into the baby, filling all the gaps, that they're generally going to have.
Yeah.
Okay, and then when they disconnect from the main feeding device, then you're
How
using.
long is that? I don't even know.
Everybody, I mean, we tried. Your mom did it first. I mean, it was a 6-month thing. 6 to 9 months. And then they can pump after. Okay, so again, we always encourage breastfeeding when you can, but some people can't.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you're going to use a baby formula if you can't, or when you're done breastfeeding, a baby formula. And you know what a baby formula is?
What?
It's a multivitamin mineral in milk.
Yeah.
That's all it is. So that makes sure. So your feet, that's the one time the baby's finally getting all the, pretty much a lot of the nutrients that they're missing. And it's so funny when people say, well, I don't want to give my kids supplements. So that's all, they were born on them. They were born on them and had them all the way up the first couple of years of life, and they still need them the rest of their life. Anyway, so that's what then you got the baby formula. And then when they start eating baby foods, just mix them up just like you would anything else. I'm not going to design a baby food diet out here.
Yeah.
But when they start eating, your pediatrician will always be able to tell you what time it is to be able to start feeding them solid foods and all that kind of stuff. And I hate to say it, the diet's no different than it is for an adult. It's just that they can't eat those different foods. It's tough when they get teeth and things change there. So that's all. That's all we're talking about in the womb and then out. And now you're into beginning. You've got your teeth and you start eating the regular stuff. They're going to tell you what you should eat. It's no different than a watered down adult diet.
Really?
Yeah. It's a gram per pound of lean body mass of protein if you do the math on it. Maybe even a little more when they're growing like that.
Yeah, I never understood. I mean, I'm so far removed from that and I haven't been exposed to like children. But how many calories does a child eat? Like that's in between
because they're
like
growing and their total calorie needs per weight are greater than an adult. An adult's weight is pretty much static. They might gain a pound or 2 a year, and that's body fat, unfortunately. So that's pretty static.
Yeah.
The amount of calories that they're going to need to maintain their structure because their weight stays the same.
Yeah.
We're not talking about bodybuilders or athletes now.
I'm just talking about.
So that's just human being. Okay, but babies are growing and they need the extra calories. Their metabolisms are moving about 1.5 times faster than an adult.
Yeah.
So their calories are going to be about 1.5 times more than an adult by weight.
Yeah.
Right? They're still smaller, so they're not going to have the still 3,000 calories.
Yeah. I mean, I just didn't know because, you see some overweight kids, you see some, skinny and then normal. Like, I just don't, is there like a target calorie? That people.
We have a whole calorie chart for what you should be feeding it, but you're going to look at your kid and find out. I mean, you're going to be able to, there is a math equation, but no one's going to do that.
Yeah.
You just feed them regularly throughout the day as they get hungry, the best foods that you possibly can that they'll eat, they'll consume, but you don't want them to miss out on the energy requirements. Right. That compromises the growth. And you don't want to miss out on the nutrients that are in those energies. So you want it nutrient dense, but unfortunately the foods for kids really aren't that much. You want to try to limit the sugar as much as possible because that's how you get addicted to sugar.
Yeah.
By always wanting more sweetness and sweetness and sweetness. So limit it when they're young. Now there's all kinds of new stuff about, being able to stave off peanut allergies by introducing peanuts very early on in life now to keep them from getting allergic, the nasty peanut allergy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm allergic to peanuts and they tell me to still take it so I don't eventually like run into it later down the road and I have like an anaphylactic shock reaction to it. So
and that's the danger of a lot of things. And so that's why you really have variety of foods early on is very important. And then these people just got to stop, looking for these, like these some kind of, magical cures for the perfect way to eat for a kid. They're not going to do it. It's pretty rare that you're gonna be able to figure any of those things out. Just it really is exposing them to the better foods early on, so they kind of just get used to that, and limiting some of the junk that But parents, they always want to reward their kids, their kids with the things that they want, and I get that. Don't get me wrong. You can't listen. I never force you guys to eat anything. You know that.
Yeah, there's like a moderation thing. I mean, I go back and I think about my childhood, like. Coming up with the script for this that I always remember like you're funny like one you guys limited my fast food intake, so like one day a week was what mom limited us to after school, and then she was like, you want to use it on this day, are you sure? And it's like, yeah, we want to go like McDonald's or whatever. And then we never had soda in the house. Never. Diet soda, but like nothing with sugar,
Yeah. And diet soda was just like for me, because bodybuilders, that's how you live when you're dieting.
And I always have like a core memory, like one, you always forcing us to take our multivitamins
every day.
And then two was like anytime I wanted like chocolate milk, like I was a Nesquik kid over Hershey's. But every time I got one from you did it with protein powder.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, no, it's the same thing. I'm like, it's not the same thing. But
milk is the cure-all. It comes right down to, because it's got all the protein, calcium, vitamin D, which is fortified with vitamin D. So that's that one for lousy eaters. As long as you had remember I'd pour your glass of milk. Remember how about after football practice, all the kids, and I'm talking about when I was coaching when they were 7 and 8 years old, 9, 10, all the way up to high school. Remember our movie night? Pizza and what?
A pizza and milk.
And milk.
Yeah.
Made sure you got your protein and you got all that, and then and the pizzas, they were all good, all healthy pizzas, good veggies and stuff on them.
Yeah. So on a diet point, strictly diet, we'll get into supplements after this.
Yeah.
It's not different than the adult diet.
Not really.
Like once they're on solid food.
So let's skip past the 0 to 4 if you don't mind, just because that's not my job. That's not my job. I'm not a pediatrician.
That's pretty much a script there that you need.
Right. You just go. You can just find out what the best foods are to buy. All I'm saying is just when they're early on, try to limit the sugar. Otherwise, they get an addiction to it.
Okay.
That's one of the things. That's the only thing I would say on that.
So then 4 on.
For 4 now, basically it's an adult diet, just, pared down to your calories. So you're looking at 1 gram per pound of lean body. That's right. Lean meats, so chicken, seafood. And hey, listen, if you want to bring your kid up a vegan, just be careful. You get soy in there. But we do know that, there's some issues with that.
What is your thought on bringing up a child vegan?
It's unnatural. Okay. But if we all of a sudden, the world was coming to an end unless we stop raising cows and, global warming because of cows and all the other stuff that's out there today and the cost it is for red meats and so forth. It got to the point we had to be vegan. Then you just got to be studious about it. You really need to understand that you're going to have to eat twice as much protein to get the amount of protein that you really need to grow. And that would bring a lot of calories with it. You're going to miss a lot of the minerals because the minerals in vegetables are not as available as they are in animal foods.
Yeah.
So there's an issue there. You have to make sure you definitely have to supplement.
Yeah.
But it's just not a natural thing for most people, and most people just don't like the fiber.
Yeah.
And there's so much fiber, and their stomach always hurts, and this, and they just can't adjust to it. But I applaud veganism. I think more power to you.
That's crazy.
It's good for the environment. It's good for all this, but it's a tough go. It's a real tough go. But pescatarian now, with seafood as your main source of.
I just don't see how you can get a child to get on board with that.
You can't. I don't know you can't either. I'm not saying you can't slowly introduce it or whatever.
Without completely brainwashing them.
Right. You pretty much have to brainwash them, or just make that's all available. Then they can't go to their friend's house.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the diet, right?
Basically, it's you just look at what they should be eating: fruits and vegetables like adults.
Yeah.
Whatever they're comfortable with. And kids are really picky, as you know. They don't like green. So but, change it up. The colors of a rainbow. I hate this sissy crap there, but you got it makes sense. Okay, so you're eating that. So you got fruits and vegetables, and then whole grains. There's nothing wrong with it. And again, I've never eaten white bread unless I went to somebody else's house. Then that's all they had was white bread. But I mean, just whole grains. Start them early on that kind of stuff. And then you've got your milk. Milk is always a standby. Now, there's people that just don't want dairy, and maybe it's for environmental reasons. I don't know. Yeah. Or maybe it's because you got a dairy allergy. Now, don't forget about lactose. I mean, lactose is very rare. You're totally intolerant. Very rare. Everybody's mildly as you get older, you get mild. But as you keep drinking milk, then you're able to digest it, no problems at all. Yeah. And if you're going to drink milk, here's the other secret to that. And hopefully you do, because the reason what's happened is the departure from milk recently in the last 10, 20 years, the departure has caused more fractures. Okay, rickets again. I mean, we're back to this place we were in the early 20th century. Everybody got rickets from lack of vitamin D and calcium.
Rickets?
Rickets is a bone deformity. In other words, as your bones develop when you're young, you end up with weak bones or porous and bow-legged. These kind of things is because they're just weak when they grow up because they're not strong. Yeah. And then they end up, they fracture easy, all kinds of different issues there. So then what we did is that's when the milkman was born. The milkman came, could they drop off milk, so you got your calcium and was fortified with vitamin D. And everybody drank milk with vitamin D. Vitamin D allows the calcium to get to the bone, and you get enough calcium. And we literally cured an epidemic. We cured an epidemic with calcium and vitamin D, making sure everybody did it. Now, all of a sudden, people decided, I'm not going to drink milk anymore for all this stuff on the internet. Oh, bovine milk is really bad for you. There's all kinds of... Listen, I get it. If you got an allergy, just don't fucking drink it. Okay, if you got a problem with it. But other than that, to avoid it for some kind of conspiracy theory is bullshit, and it's costing us the health of our children, which later on they're going to pay for it in adulthood, and you see it already in your parents and your grandparents, not yours, but people see it in their parents and their grandparents or aunts and uncles. They got osteoporosis. They got all kinds of vitamin D deficiency issues or insufficiency issues out there now from avoiding that's just an easy delivery. Other ways to get vitamin D and calcium, don't get me wrong. Yeah. So anyway, back to the kids thing. So your diet is pretty much the same. It's just watered down, but I would try to keep that. You got to make sure that they are getting, a very balanced nutrition. And parents, I will tell you this, when they're young, especially 4 on up, we're talking now, and we're not talking about earlier than that. I had a rule, as you remember, as long as you eat what you need, okay, you can have whatever else you want. Yeah. I made that rule. I made sure you guys always had your protein, just your right amount of protein in your meals. And you did have a little bit of veggies there. We did make sure you got it that way. And that was, and then you had your glass of milk. Yeah. So we pretty much covered everything. You always had grains. You always guys liked whole grains and that kind of stuff. So that wasn't an issue. And then once that was done, I don't care. If you want ice cream, you can go have it. You want this, you can go have it. I didn't care what you did after that.
Yeah, the thing is, you made us eat all that food, and then
you didn't want to get hungry.
Yeah, and then it makes you less hungry for other
so
things.
It worked.
So it's like
it worked. But you can't stop kids from
grew
eating
up pretty
what they
strong,
want to eat.
So
yeah, you guys both, and all of you grew up strong. Oh, you grew up tall too. Way taller than me, that's for sure, because we made sure you had everything available to you.
Yeah,
so that's all. It's a lesser amount of what an adult should eat. That's all. And you just got to be careful as you can't deprive your kid from certain things that if they really are wanting it, but you've just got to make sure they have what they need first.
While we're on the topic of diet, there's some things that are out there these days now, right? Like fast food, ultra processed, that kids are going to be heavily exposed to because that's ultimately what they're exposed to at school, all these things. What is your philosophy, or what is the consequences of taking ultra processed food, or is it not as bad as what it is?
Okay, well, it depends on the kid. Yeah. If the kid's sedentary, it's a disaster. Yeah. If the kid's an athlete, like a very active one, like you guys were, you played every single sport. You had recess during school. You got 3-hour practices after. You're going from one sport to another, sometimes 2 sports in one season. Crazy stuff. It's not so bad. Okay, but you didn't do it. But I'm just saying it's not so bad. So the point is this. Here's the danger of the ultra-processed sort of fast food, if you want to call it that or whatever.
Yeah.
It's the addiction that you get to the taste.
Yeah.
It tastes better than natural whole food. Unless your mom's going to spend a lot or your dad's going to spend a lot of time cooking it really cool, special, that's going to taste really great.
Yeah,
I know
Michelin star chef.
And people are listening right now are saying, oh, I can make the food taste good. Yeah, you're one in about 50 million. That's about it. So that's okay for you and you can do that. But ultra-processed food to the average kid tastes 1,000 times better than mom's home-cooked meal.
Yeah.
If she's trying to cook a healthy one. She's cooking a shitty one, it doesn't matter. It's just ultra processed too.
Yeah.
And what we mean by that is high in calories and low in nutrition. And it's got a bunch of other stuff in it. And what it does, because it tastes so good, you'll eat more.
Yeah.
And that's how childhood obesity keeps rising, because that's the foods they're getting. And here's the bad part, Zane. It's cheaper to feed a family of 6 at McDonald's than it is for you to cook at home for that same family of 6. So of course they're going to do it. So that's why you end up, it's a socioeconomical thing too. You see people with less money are the ones that end up being obese.
Yeah.
And it's really sad, breaks my heart for sure. So it really is, it's so important to get the kid not using those types of foods, because the addiction, it gets worse and worse as they get older. Because that same food can't get you as high as you were when you were how good it tastes before. Now you got to find more of that kind of food. Yeah. And you got to keep eating it and going further and further. So it's a tough one. So that's why you do want to do the best you can. I'd love to get everybody to just do some, and there's plenty of restaurants where you can order what you want.
Yeah.
It's just more expensive. Fast food is just so ridiculously cheap. It's hard to stay away, because guess what? Without the energy, which is the calories, forget what's in it, but the calories, you can't move. So that's always going to take precedence over whatever else, like these school lunches. Yeah. They're not going to serve you skinless chicken and broccoli because the frickin' kids won't eat it.
Yeah.
So then they have no energy for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
So they go, okay, shit. They give up, they capitulate, and they go back to eating regular crap they have out there.
They bring in fast food from a local
and
place.
then you got your Coca-Colas and your Gatorades. They pay the school.
Yeah.
Pay the school to put drinks in the school. Their drinks in the school. They pay them. And the schools aren't going to turn down that money. They're going to take it because they need the money. You know how the school system is. We're broke. So bottom line is they're going to do that. Now the kids are further addicted. It's about getting kids addicted to sugar as soon as possible for these big companies. And that's what the parents need to just kind of be cognizant of. This is going to happen.
Yeah.
So that's why, again, that's the whole thing. So basically it is, you just have to be more vigilant. You can't just, let the kids pick their own foods.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Tell them this is what you need. Just kind of lay a pretty good, healthy place, make it taste good, and then they can eat what they want after that. And that's just my advice from a humble father, right?
Yeah.
But as you know, no one's worked with more youth athletes than I have.
Yeah, no, that's why
that's
we're
for sure.
doing this.
And I'm talking about taking them all the way to Division I and pro sports even, with nutritionally wise.
That's why.
And I know, and by the way, or like our NBA players that we still work with today. We took them through college and through high school and so forth. They're the ones that they eat like 5 McDonald's burgers a day, but they're running their asses off.
No, I know.
Right?
That's why. That's why. I know I have we have a weird angle is because we see a lot of athletes and stuff, and it's like you can eat whatever you want, because they're eating good, but they're eating 5-6 meals a day.
Yeah.
One of them, a sixth of them is like an ultra processed or fast food.
I'd say half
meal.
of them are actually.
Yeah,
for many
I was
of them.
just saying, but that's one
they're
a
moving.
day. Exactly.
And they're moving a lot.
So
that's negating a lot of but they need those calories.
It's just hard to navigate through this space where it's like, I know we're keeping like the YouTube trolls and whatnot kind of at bay, but we're not talking about the person that eats ultra processed food every single meal all the time.
Yeah.
Moderation is fine when it comes to all this stuff, right?
Absolutely.
That's what we want to get that's what I want to get across, right?
Hey, my favorite meal, and is spare ribs. Throw on some French fries on the side. Pork ribs and all of that's my favorite meal. But we have it when. Birthdays and a couple, then all of a sudden we'll decide to go get them.
Yeah,
and so
but
forth,
ultra processed food, I guess, is what people say is deli meats.
Yeah, things like that. They have just a whole bunch of things done to the meat, done to it from. In other words, an orange is processed the day you take the peel off it. right off your own tree. So the more you're doing things to it to cure it, like a hot dog, it's got all mixed up.
I mean, like
stuff.
Oreos is obviously ultra processed. Like
for sure.
it's just like
and it's got all the chemicals in it as well
Yeah.
to keep it because it has to be preserved.
I know.
Remember, these things have to have
but
shelf
that's what
life.
I mean, right? Is all that stuff isn't gonna kill you. If
No,
you
it's
don't
not going to kill
if
you in
don't
moderation.
overdo
Nothing's
it.
going to kill
Or
you in
I mean,
moderation.
like, is it even gonna do much harm to you?
No.
If you
No.
just treat yourself
No.
here and there.
No. Not going to do any harm to you. No, it's like people goes, oh, like I'll be there with a bunch of, healthy people because I just finished a lecture and they all come, they want to join me for dinner and I'll order a Diet Coke. Go, Diet Coke? That's okay? That's okay? Yeah, that's okay. It's better than a Coke.
Yeah.
Okay, because that is loaded with sugar. And by the way, that sugar's natural, but it's loaded and it causes it can lead to diabetes. It leads to an addiction. Once in a while, a Diet Coke, once a day. You can have it back in the bodybuilding days, 6 or 8 a day we would drink just to cut our appetites because no calories and at least give us something sweet to suck on. But I mean, just like, I'm doing okay. So anyway, it's just there's anything in moderation.
Yeah, and if you're gonna compare it to water, of course, but
of course you compare it to water, of course. No one's going there.
Yeah,
it's just that you won't drink enough water.
Yeah,
if all you drank for your fluids with water.
So just moderation, right? Like,
that's it.
So that's what we're talking about when we say it's okay. Like, don't overdo anything.
Yes, exactly.
Let's get into supplements for kids because this is kind of like where people start getting
right. Exactly.
Little they get their pitchforks out, I guess. Where would you start for supplementing?
We already did.
As you already said, right? Is you start with it. So
I want to start off this little segment by saying this. Mm-hmm. Okay. So mom and dad, I'll never forget, I was doing a seminar on youth sports talking about, these are the things your kids needs to make sure they get. And if they're not getting from diet, which they're not, I made it look straight, every single parent straight in the eye, and they're not, you need to supplement them with this. If you want to be a good parent, you want to be responsible. Some guy in the room, I remember getting up and walking out. This was a few years back. And then when asked later about why he walked, he goes, I don't want to give my kids supplements. That's just wrong. And so I can only imagine maybe he thought it was a drugs or something. You know what I mean? But he didn't. And I go, so when a parent says, oh, well, I'd rather let my kid not supplement. Well, what do you mean? I mean, it's like, first of all, that's how they were born. You supplemented them in the womb. Okay, they came out. You continued to supplement by breastfeeding with your and you're taking your milk formula.
Oh, milk.
I go, so, and then all of a sudden you stop? Do you think the kid's eating better? They're eating worse, and it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. You got to fill their gaps, or you are, and I will call you all out immediately, look you right in the eye, you're an irresponsible parent. So let's start right there.
Yeah.
So what do you do to plug those gaps? Just like I did for you guys.
Yeah.
Every day of your life. And pretty much all of you came out pretty solid and good, making a living as athletes. But again, I'm not saying you're making athletes here. I'm just saying protecting your body through age. And I want all the parents right now to go look around your family and your friends, the older population in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. And are they broken down somewhere? Are they overweight? Are they? Yes, I guess a lot of them are. And they're taking down 10 or 15 family members to haul them around. Well, guess where this starts? This prevention of all that starts right away. Your kid is building the foundation. It built the foundation in the womb. You pass these windows of opportunity of growth, brain development. They're gone after a certain window. When you have all the nutrition, which is all the brick and mortar, you now have the big structure, the right structure. Now, the kid may end up being fucked up because she's got a bad environment. The parents lives in a bad place or a bad situation, but at least they had the potential to be brilliant. They had the potential to do pretty much anything they wanted because the brick and mortar was there, which is the nutrition.
Yeah.
Okay, the environment is the architect of that nutrition. Okay, but so let's stay here. So we need the kid growing up. This is what every parent needs to know. You realize that you can't build any more bone past, let's say, age 30. So all your bone is being built starting in the womb and peaking right around puberty. In other words, that's the peak of your bone mass you're ever going to have in your life. And then it drifts up a little bit into your 20s, and you can just flat lines at 30, and then bang, it only goes backwards. You lose bone. Okay. So in those resorptions more than synthesizing it, because you keep as you're building bone, the more you have, the longer you can live with never having to worry about bone problems.
Yeah.
Which everybody over age 65, I say 75% have osteopenia, and then later on osteoporosis, just weak bones, and they fall, they break, and hips break, and then you're pretty much screwed. So bottom line is, guess what? So guess how we're talking about from the time the kid's in the womb until after puberty. That's the most important time to get the calcium and vitamin D and all the other vitamins, vitamin K and magnesium that build your bones. Because if you don't, you can't build them anymore. You can just stave off the inevitable of losing it by maybe supplementing, but it's too late.
Yeah.
It's like trying to build a building. You're building a building with plywood rather than brick and mortar, rather than with steel beams.
Yeah.
So it's just half the amount your body could have made this giant, great structure. If you'd given it all the nutrients that actually make the structure. Medicine doesn't build the body, nutrients do. And there's a certain amount you need every day to maximize that structure. So that's what I'm saying. So calcium and vitamin D, if they're not getting about 1,300 milligrams, so you need more as a kid than you do as an adult. So 1,300 milligrams a day, and parents, do the math. It's by law, it's on every label. On every label of food nowadays, it's there. When you buy vegetables, it's not on that, but there's not that whole lot in vegetables other than kale and then some broccoli. Shit kids don't eat. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. But yeah, it's on all the food products that you buy. It'll tell you how much calcium's in it nowadays. That's by the law. That's how serious the problem is. They put it. You have to tell them, and you need to start thinking about it in your math. So that's why your protein shakes. Each one of your protein shakes always had 350 milligrams of calcium. Then I put milk in it. Now you had 600 milligrams of calcium. It's because your natural protein, whey protein, is full of calcium. So again, that's that part. All right, and then the vitamin D. If you're drinking milk, it's got vitamin D in it. So if they're not getting enough vitamin D, you definitely want to get at least 1,000 IUs, or 600 is the youth amounts, but that's old school. Really, at least 25 micrograms, or what we call IUs, 1,000 IUs daily of vitamin D. And almost everything has that stuff now listed on the labels as well. But that should be covered in your multi. The vitamin D should be covered in your multi. So you're taking a complete multi that's got all your minerals. And by the way, the multi would be no different than an adult, just different amounts based on your age.
Yeah.
We call that the life phase. Okay, so like we have a kid's multi for age 2 to 4, as soon as you get teeth. All right, because that's when you go off your baby formula. Now you're using them for age 2 to 4. You take like 1, and then if you're 4 to 12. Then you take 2. Yeah. I'm just making, but you all the vitamins and minerals, and guess what? It's the same vitamins and minerals. It's just a different dosage.
Yeah.
And based on what kids generally eat. So that's the supplements right there. And then the big one that's been added now over the last 15 years to anybody in the know is omega-3 fatty acids. And omega-3 fatty acids, I can't tell you parents how important that is when you're in the womb, because half the brain is made up of DHA, docosahexaenoic acid, also EPA. I'm just saying, this is an omega-3 fatty, a long chain, a polyunsaturated fatty acid that comes from fish. And kids just don't eat fish, and pregnant ladies are told not to eat fish.
I didn't eat fish at all.
So there's an issue right there. And the omega-3s are central to brain development, number 1, brain perfusion, number 2, which means the flow of blood throughout the brain, nourishing the thousands and billions of cells that we have in there, okay? And then 3, in inflammation, keeping the inflammation down, and keeping oxidation in check, so the brain begins to develop and the neurons communicate better, okay? And we know this now. Kids that had enough omega-3s in the womb turn out better in early adolescence. We test them 5 years later to 8 years later, and we see that there's a huge improvement compared to kids that didn't get enough. And now they're using it for ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. They use it for that, for behavioral reasons. They actually supplement kids with omega-3s now. So there's so much there. I would encourage, if your kid's not eating 4 servings of fish a week, and your kid's not eating 4 servings of fish a week, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, trust me, then give them about 1,000 to 2,000 milligrams a day of EPA and DHA. It's an omega-3. They're cheap. Like a multi, they're cheap. Yeah. And it is, forget about insurance, it's going to make a difference. Yeah. It's going to make a difference. Their foundation is going to be stronger. The brain's going to, at least has the potential to be stronger and make them want to keep moving. That's the other part. And bingo. So that's really it. So you got your calcium if you're not getting it, because that won't fit in a multi. You'll need more. If you're not getting it, and that's on the labels, your complete multi is not negotiable. And I would argue the omega-3 shouldn't be negotiable either, unless your kid is pounding the fish. If they're pounding the fish, then you don't need it. But it has to be a fatty fish. So we're talking about sardines, we're talking about tuna,
salmon.
We're talking about salmon. So I doubt your kid's eating a lot of that, unless you're living in Alaska. Okay, so I'm just saying that's I would probably do that no matter what.
Damn.
So there's your supplement. See how easy it is? That's hardly anything there. That's easy to do. Well, and watch, your kid now has the opportunity to, because your vitamins and minerals are the spark plugs to every one of your trillions of cells in your body. Now you got them all. They're flooded, and you're nourished all your cells, and every time they replace themselves, they do a good job. When they don't have enough vitamins and minerals, they don't do a good job, and you get weaker and weaker and weaker as you get older.
Dang. My life just came full circle.
So there you go.
I wasn't eating fish.
Yeah, but you were getting omegas.
Was I?
I was sneaking them in always.
The brain development ain't there.
Yours is.
I mean, so that's vitamin and mineral.
Yes, vitamin, minerals, yeah, and omegas.
What age are we talking about from just...
Well, because as soon as you get your teeth.
Yeah, okay.
But don't forget, you've already had your vitamin minerals supplement in your formula.
We're moving on to the next thing. I'm asking if there's anything, is there anything else now that you're going to add on to supplements that a person could
I don't
take?
think so. I mean, listen, we know like in different countries, they give their kids ashwagandha regularly. That's just part of their thing. Turmeric. In your Asian cultures, they pretty much use that. That's just part of their food, though. They have high doses in their food. And there's some really good studies around that. But I don't think that's necessary for the average kid growing up.
What about protein shake or anything like that? Because you were talking about before, balanced diet. You want to get them their nutrients. Or I remember you feeding me protein shakes. There you go. So it's
okay. Good point.
That's, and then as you get older too, when do you start? Is there a time where, I don't know, maybe like creatine or anything else?
Well, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
So that's athletics. You wouldn't use that for a regular growing up.
But we're talking about all youth.
I know. Okay, but let's go back to what you just said about.
Yeah.
So parents, you're having trouble getting your kids to eat fruits and vegetables, right? Well, guess how I got my kids to eat it? Mix it up in a smoothie with protein shake. Now they got their calcium, they got all their phytochemicals from the fruits and vegetables. I throw in a banana, and by the way, don't think of a protein shake as supplementing. That's not supplementing. That's a food. It's a ground up food. It's ground up protein, right? And make sure it's got some carbs in it too, because you don't want it without carbs for growing children. That puts their hormone levels right. When you just go protein only, it's always better to have some carbs with all of it with growing children. It gets their hormones right where they should be, balanced nicely. So anyway, so now you got a protein shake. You throw in some fruits, and you can even throw vegetables. I mean, we even put kale in it, because no kid in the world's going to eat frickin' kale. Tastes like shit. But if you mix it into a good smoothie, all kinds of great, we have like hundreds of recipes that will get a kid to get their fruits and vegetables. Wow. And not only that, the fruits and vegetables mixed up in a shake are better than if you eat them raw, because the fruits and vegetables, they have these bonds that hold all the nutrients in. The phytochemicals get bonded with oxalates and phytic acid in your different vegetables. So this breaks the bonds. And now they're easy absorbed. All the vitamins and minerals out of those things are easily absorbed. So yes, that's how you sneak in the real fruits and vegetables into their diet with a protein shake. And they'll make sure they get 1 gram per pound of protein that way.
That's what I'm saying. Even like, I know for me, like back in the day, I wasn't really vibing with the just ham sandwiches. Like I would toss it some days, you know?
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't be getting it that way. But, you rip a protein shake at night throw some Oreos in it.
Yeah, which is fine because you're active and everything else. You guys don't have a weight issue, then you don't have. There's no reason you can't do that.
Yeah,
no reason. Anything to. A protein shake is a great delivery system for foods that kids don't often eat.
Yeah,
it's a great way to get it done, and not only that, it saves you money. The kid's got to have 1 gram per pound of lean body mass of protein daily, and for you to cook up chicken, not to mention the time factor, the convenience, and you're going to cook up meat or anything else, it's going to be way more expensive than taking a scoop of whey protein, throwing in some fruits, vegetables, and not only that, if they'll drink, as long as they'll take milk, and hopefully you didn't dissuade your kid from having milk, mix it with milk. Get them the calories, get them the nutrients, get them the calcium, the vitamin D. That's food. It's a food. Don't think it as a supplement. That's a food. Yeah, so that's it, really. I think I'm glad you brought up the thing about a shake, because that's a great delivery system for foods kids don't eat. A great delivery system for foods adults don't eat too. Make a good, strong smoothie.
All right. And so now as we get a little bit older, right?
Yep.
Is there anything else that you would supplement? Like, especially, I mean, a lot of kids, I would say most kids, right, are involved in some sort of physical activity or like athletics.
I mean, here's where everything gets tricky. Obviously we work in billion-dollar organizations, take care of their athletes and the nutrition and everything else. And, we're sold worldwide and, so we're big. So there's a business decision versus a safety decision when it comes to supplementing. So everything for us is 18 years or older. And when it comes to supplementing beyond health, and health being calcium, vitamin D, multis, and then we also have what we call non-vitamin antioxidants. Yeah. Okay. Zeaxanthin, lutein, and the lycopene, alpha lipoic acid, CoQ10. These are things that the body doesn't get very much from food unless you're eating a lot of fruits and vegetables. And even then it's too hard. But they protect our skin. They build our eyes. In fact, I'm just always wonder why lutein and zeaxanthin have not become claimed to be essential nutrients, so they should be. We know that in the womb, if the mother's getting plenty of that, the baby's eyes are better. Everything kind of works better. So, yes, there are things like that would be helpful. We stay away from recommending those things because of the business side, not the safety side. In fact, if anything, you should probably use it. And then when you get to things like creatine, if you're an active athlete, again, there's no reason. I always tell parents when they ask.
This is all completely under parent supervision.
No, I know, but I always tell parents there's no reason for your kid to use creatine to improve sports if they're not competing at a high level. It doesn't make any sense. And they don't need it otherwise, unless they're a vegan. If they're a vegan, then there'd be a sense for it because you get none from your diet, zero. And when we put vegans on creatine, just a maintenance dose of creatine, they think they're on steroids. They feel so different. I mean, everything is because they just get zero from the diet. With the average omnivore gets, a gram, a little more than a gram from the diet, and our bodies make a gram. So we're steady at 2 grams daily that we use and it comes back and use and come back. So I'm saying there. So again, those are things that are, unless your kid's at a high level, young. And by the way, they're studying creatine all kinds, soccer, basketball, and we're talking about age 10 on up. And it shows that it actually can help prevent injury and recover from injury faster. So all good things. Use it for concussion now. So soccer players, all this kind of stuff. So it's very safe, very safe. Yeah. It's just something that we stay away from on a business standpoint.
So as far as
if your kid is a
but no
super
problem
athlete,
with multivitamin, fish oil, and protein shakes.
Zero.
Protein shakes? Would you recommend protein shakes?
Absolutely. I recommend protein shakes when you're a baby. I stuffed it in your bottles. When your mom used to get mad at me, she would just go like, because I was traveling, I'd get home and I go, let me feed the kids today. She's not breastfeeding anymore. You guys are all babies. I just take that milk formula, the baby formula, and I throw a scoop of protein in it. Back then it was Apex High Performers. Now it's First String that we use. I put a swing in there and I shake it all up and I give it to you. And everybody goes, how come your kids are so tall? This is because I force fed them. Make sure they got enough protein when they're growing up. As long as their growth plates were open, I know I can add an inch or two to their height from their genetic capabilities just by making sure when it's open, all the nutrients are available.
Maximizing windows.
That's what we did it. Maximize the windows of opportunity.
All right.
So that's just food. So nothing everybody in the world should be doing exactly what I said as far as that goes. And shame on the parents that don't do that because you're just setting your kid up for failure later on in adulthood. They're going to break, and they're going to break early. Over 2/3 of everything that's wrong with adults from a health standpoint when they get older is 100% preventable from what I just said, as long as you keep moving along with it. And listen, anything else beyond that, you would really want some qualified naturopath to look at because, a lot of parents want to go the alternative therapy way for different problems with their kids. We're not clinical. Nothing clinical. There's lots of good herbs. There's lots of things out there that you might want to use to treat certain things, but then you go to a naturopath. That's different dietary supplements completely. We're talking about filling gaps as a kid to prevent bad things from happening.
For the average healthy child.
Yeah.
Something's wrong.
Yeah.
Clinically. Yeah. You go that route.
Yeah. So I want everyone to a take-home message for everybody here is this.
Well, we're not done yet.
I know, but a take-home message on that is that, and Benjamin Franklin said it, not me. I just took it to kind of the next level. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And, even doctors will tell you that. Because unfortunately, we don't live in that world. They want doctors don't want you sick, but obviously big pharma, all they care about is the treatment.
Right.
They just go, no, don't bother. No, they even make up shit about, no, you don't need vitamin D or you don't need a multi. Yeah, they're doing that because they want bad things to happen so they can treat you with it later. I mean, it's just, and they want the diagnosis and the treatment part. That's why we call it sick care, not health care. But all these things we're talking about, that ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure because of this. It's easier to stop something from happening in the first place than it is to repair the damage after it has already happened. And no parent should ever forget that. So it's your responsibility to make sure that all the building materials are available to your child so they don't end up like 2/3 of our population out there that's all falling apart way before their time.
Yeah.
And it is preventable by giving your body everything that it needs. When it's young, we're not talking about treating something here. We're talking about prevention.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about, protecting bad things from happening.
All right. And so speaking of prevention, we're going to move on to a multivitamin here, okay? So hopefully the internet doesn't come for us here. We're coming for the beloved Flintstone vitamin, okay? Because that's just like the most popular one.
Sure.
At one point in my life, I even had one at some point. I know that you gave it, but
well,
I think
we didn't have a chewable one time at that point, but we had chewables most of your life here.
And we're not here to say if it's good or bad. We're just reviewing it and seeing if it could be better. Okay. So, as a nutritional expert here, how do you feel about a Flintstone vitamin? Because this is probably the most popular one I can think of amongst the internet and youth.
Yeah. First of all, they make many different ones, Flintstone's got about 10 different layers.
We'll get to multivitamin gummies.
No, you picked the better one.
This is
definitely better than nothing.
This is the one,
without a doubt. Yeah, this is probably the best Flintstone vitamin out there, and it's pretty much got what you want of everything. The big thing that's missing here, there's two things that stand out to me. It does have some of the minerals. It does have iodine, zinc, copper, and it's also got iron in it, which I think is very important for most kids. Some kids can't. That's another story, but that's an unusual group, hemochromatosis.
Mm-hmm.
But so this has got iron in it. So they've done a pretty good job with the amounts in here. 1/2 tablet, gets the kids age 2 to 3 about right. And then on the 1 tablet here gets to those numbers that are pretty good. What we don't like here, what I would say here is you end up with it. You don't have choline, which is something that we put in ours only because no one would do it because it doesn't make it taste good. But choline is it's considered now by dietary guidelines for Americans. It's considered a nutrient of concern. It's central to brain development, central to liver health, all these things, and we do not get enough of it in the American diet at all, unless you're eating quite a few eggs a day or something. But so I've made sure I wanted the parents to know that kids should have that, especially as their brain's developing from all the way through. And by the way, it should be in every prenatal. So moms, check your prenatal to make sure choline's in it. There's only about 2 companies I found. We don't make a prenatal anymore. Not for any reasons. We just don't have the market for it because we're obviously adult fitness and athletes and so forth. We just don't have that many people looking for a prenatal, and doctors prescribe it. Yeah. And most of the ones they prescribe are good, but they don't have choline. Make sure you're taking some extra choline with that. So that's really about it on here that doesn't look good. As far as the minerals go, they're missing a couple of them here, but again, the most important ones are in here, which would be zinc, which isn't like a whole lot of it in here, but it's got that, it's got iron, but missing a couple of the other ones like, chromium and some of these things there. But other than that, it's not bad at all.
That's the one I remember.
Yeah, it's selenium too. Yep, it's missing that. And it's missing the other part I was going to tell you is the vitamin K. I like vitamin K1 and K2. We were the first company to ever do that in history, put both Ks in our multivitamin. We did this many, many years ago, and people didn't understand, what is vitamin K2? The difference between K1 and K2, they're both involved in bone metabolism and cardiovascular health and even cognitive support. But they're both involved also with blood clotting. That's what they do. The main function in them is help clotting blood. So if you bruise, you won't bleed to death on the inside. Okay, so that's what vitamin K's primary job. You don't get enough of it, then everything else is compromised. Bone health compromised, cardiovascular. It's all going to go there for the first. That we call it triaging. It's going to triage and go right to where it's going to keep you alive that day, and then everything else gets compromised, especially your cardiovascular system. Vitamin K2 actually takes calcium and puts it in the right place. Chaperones it to the bone rather than to your cardiovascular system where it could build up high levels there. So K2 is really important. Everyone should look for K1 and K2 in their multivitamin. In fact, this doesn't even have any vitamin K in it. Yeah, so this is missing vitamin K totally.
What are we doing?
Yeah, sorry. So you're missing a couple of minerals, vitamin Ks, and everything else. But it's better than most of the other ones I've seen on the market as far as that goes. The other ones and gummies are like the worst.
So this is still viable, you would say.
It's what? It's
viable.
It's better than nothing, moms and dads.
Won't say it's viable, but we will say it's better than nothing.
Right? Yeah.
A lot better than nothing, at least.
Yeah, I would say it's a lot better than nothing.
All right.
But it's just missing some really important stuff. Like the vitamin K for one, because it's just one thing kids don't get, because mostly it's coming from like kale again.
And then I'm sure we'll in the future see an uprise in choline, right?
Choline, hopefully, but the problem is you have to mask it. It just doesn't taste good.
Yeah.
So we put it in our kids' multi, the chewable, and we just kids just didn't want it. So what you can do is you can crush the chewable tablet and put it in a drink that they like. You could always do that.
Protein shake.
That'll hide it. Yeah, exactly.
So that's your Flintstone vitamin.
That's a
right
Flintstone
there.
vitamin. Yeah.
This is a better viable. Maybe.
Yes. Yeah.
Better than nothing. Absolutely.
Yes.
So you can run it still. It's Neal approved.
Yeah,
Or Supbeast approved, we'll call it.
Yeah.
All right. And then, but that leads to the next question though, because forget the chewables, right? Well, I mean, I guess it's a chewable.
These are chewables. Yeah.
Gummies, gummy vitamins. That's a big one.
And the reason they're in chewables.
Everyone, I mean, even adults now are like, I need a gummy vitamin for everything. Right. What is your stance on gummy vitamins?
Well, when it comes to gummy, any is a matrix. That's what we call matrix. So you've got capsule matrix, you've got a powder matrix. I mean, that's what you're sending the nutrients in.
And then this a chewable matrix?
Okay, yeah, this is a chewable. Yeah, just a chewable. The reason it's chewable because kids won't swallow pills. They're not big enough to swallow. So you just take that stuff and make it so it stays solid in there. The problem with gummies is that you can't stabilize the nutrients that you put in there for any length of time. In fact, these new creatine gummies that were out, they all got busted. Literally, they were supposed to have 1 or 2 grams of creatine in it, and by the 5th day after being made, they had pretty much 0.
And that's because
it just disintegrates because of the matrix, because it's all the different things you have to make a gummy out of.
Yeah.
All the chemicals, all the different things that a gummy, all the different sugars and everything else you put in there, it just the nutrients just kind of fall apart in there. It's all about stabilization. When you see a shelf life of 2 years, what it means, if this says expires in 2026, February 1st, 2026, that means that if someone pulled that pill out of there, February 1st, 2026, tested it for all the vitamins and minerals that are in there, it has to have within 10% of the potency the label says. Well, if you made a gummy, your average gummy, and by the way, you should see it, they all say all these gummy companies got sued for claiming a certain amount of omega-3s in it.
Gummy vitamins.
Gummy vitamins, right. That's what I'm talking about, yeah. Now I am, yes. And vitamins, they got sued. And these were like Disney, Marvel gummies because they had 1/10,000th the proper dose. That doesn't mean it didn't start that way, but by the time they tested it 3 days later, it all disintegrated.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the first problem is the stabilization of the nutrients in that matrix. No one's conquered that yet.
Yeah.
And by the way, when they do, I'll be the first to make fucking gummies. Then everyone will love taking your shit. Be the first to do it before anyone, they figure out the matrix, but it just doesn't work. And then you can't put very many vitamins and minerals in there because you can only put like 4 different types of things in there before they antagonize each other within that matrix. Yeah. And they actually cancel each other out. So you're very limited with gummies. No one's conquered it yet, but everybody wants to.
Yeah.
Because, here, take this gummy. Here's this herb in a gummy and this in a gummy. Sounds good. Do not trust it.
Yeah.
And if you do find one, because I'm working with a company right now, I said, if you can NSF certify a gummy, that means that they'll prove the stability on it.
Yeah.
So let's say it only going to last 6 months. You're not going to get one to last 2 years for sure. So, but else you can get one to last 3 months. Because you remember, you're gonna, well, I'm just saying 3 or 6.
How are you
3 or
gonna
6.
sell it in time?
Well, that's the whole point. Okay, but let's just say it's a 6-month shelf life.
Yeah.
And as NSF certifies, they'll prove that it's still potent at 6 months. So that I would buy it.
Yeah.
Then I would go ahead and do it. Because I like the idea of every older adult taking some creatine every day like a multi. I love that idea. I know we're talking about youth now, but I'm just saying because those are the things that will help you, not just from your muscles and keep your muscles also, especially if you're active, but also cognitively. It helps prevent cognitive decline by giving you more energy to the brain, because that's what creatine does. So creatine phosphate, you get a bit higher creatine pool in the brain, and it buffers the ATP. So even when mentally challenging tasks, you can think better.
Yeah.
So anyway, those are things I like. So I think older people would do it. It was a gummy. But right now, I just tell people take a scoop of creatine. Older people, a scoop of creatine, put it in your protein powder. Tastes great. Yeah. Or anything. Yeah, just make because you got to have extra protein anyway. Yeah.
It's like lemonade or something.
Yeah. So kids. As far as that goes,
I think that's everything.
Yeah.
So, what should we? How should we send them off here?
Well, I think we sent them off with a recap of exactly what I just said on the macronutrients. Mm-hmm. That we're going 4 years and up. I don't want to recap the prenatal. You're prenatal, the kids in the womb. You're supplementing them while you're taking your prenatal vitamins and omegas. Okay. Mm-hmm. They come out, you've got your baby formula. That's a multivitamin mineral, whether you know it or not. It's all in there. That's the way they make them. And then when they're off that, they go to a chewable multivitamin mineral. Okay, that's got, like I said, it's got all the minerals, all the vitamins. It's just a smaller adult vitamin. That's what it comes down to.
And not a
They're
gummy
missing
vitamin.
The same. And not a gummy. Stay
vitamin.
away from the gummies. Do not buy gummies. If you've got any right now, give it to your dog or cat. Do whatever you want to do, but just don't bother with that with your kids.
If you need a recommendation, we just did Flintstones. They're decent.
Right.
At best.
Anyway, so that's that part there. And then to make sure that they're getting at least, a gram or so a day of omega-3 fatty acids along with their complete multi. Eat the best they can. Sneak in fruits and vegetables in a smoothie, a protein shake for them. Make them like it and tell them what it's about. Tell them what it's doing for their body. Proper nutrition doesn't just make the kid better on the field. I would tell all of you guys and the athletes. I always had parent meetings after every practice. Bring them in. I'd have a little section on nutrition. Doing the right thing, like before you come to practice, drinking a shake, and then right after recovering, it speeds up your recovery quickly and you're ready for your next bout of exercise. It doesn't just make you better on the field, it makes you better in the classroom. So keep that in mind, parents, because their brains are sharper. Nutrition is responsible for everything that goes on in the brain. If they're not going to eat breakfast, make them a smoothie. Okay? Make sure they get that. And make sure they eat before they come to practice. And that's why I always made everybody go buy a protein shake and at least take a scoop, mix it with water before you come to practice. I don't know what you ate before that, but I don't want you dropping dead in the fourth quarter, out of energy. So anyway, again, there, and not only that, if they take one right after, we used to bring bars out there. They would quick absorption, they would recover faster, and they would feel good. And not only that, it would cut their appetite so they don't go out and eat a lousy dinner. Yeah. So it always did good things for them. So just make sure the kids are nourished and let them eat. Again, you're going to have what they kind of want, but make them eat what they need first. And what they need is nothing more than a lesser adult diet. But do the best you can to get there. And of course, you can't deprive them because then you're really going to get screwed. They'll be sneaking off. Anything in moderation is fine. Yeah. Keep that in mind. That's what it comes down to as far as all of that goes. And then, listen, when it comes to body weight with kids, nothing wrong with being a little bit overweight before they go into puberty. There's no reason. And puberty usually straightens that out for most kids that are active. It's really about keeping your kid active. Yeah. If you keep your kid active, everything's going to come out okay. It is. Don't be an asshole about telling them about being overweight. Just let this thing, because as long as you know what they're kind of doing in their life, they're staying active, there's nothing wrong with it being a little, at least in the opinion of what the average person would look at you and say, you're chunky. Okay, husky. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't be fighting any of that kind of stuff. Just make sure they're getting what they need, and that'll all come together. The secret is to keep them active. And the more active they are, guess what? The more nutrition they can use, the stronger the building becomes because everything is just a little bit more dense. and then you can stave off, because this is the most important time for them to fill their gaps. This is more important than after the fact. You are so fucked after the fact, okay? You got to do it before the fact so that bad shit doesn't happen. That's what it comes down to.
Get more development.
So do it now.
The more development you have, the more
And your
likelihood.
brain is just like your skeletal muscles. When you get it full of nutrition, it does really good things.
And you'll be able to attract a mate later on in life.
That's
better.
right. That's right.
That's facts.
Yeah, and you'll make more money too.
I mean, it's probably a correlation there.
Oh, well, again, I mean, obviously, when you're active and you stay active and you want to be active, and you're good in school, just good things happen. Obviously, good things happen from a
put yourself on the right
cultural
trajectory.
standpoint. Yes.
All right, we'll catch you in the next one.
All right.
Bye. Like and subscribe. Bye.
Boom.